Meeting in Penn Hills, but he is en route back to his homestead in Rochester, Pennsylvania. Former teacher, coach, obviously returned Rochester football to the glory years that they have really experienced for many years, including during time in which his brother Gene Matzook was a coach there. Many of my friends coached there. Obviously, my parents graduated from Rochester High School, so there's a big connection to that community. I lived there for a very long time, a lot of relatives, and I grew up in New Brighton, where I graduated in 1975, and I asked Dan to join me tonight because he, along with some other citizens, were involved in a recent meeting of a story that I've been kind of filling you in over the last hour, so when he got on the air with us, he could just kind of pick it up. But let me just kind of set the hour again if I can. The New Brighton and Rochester school boards met to vote on a potential athletic cooperative agreement for select sports. New Brighton's board voted to approve the agreement, while Rochester's board voted to table the matter for more input. The proposed co-op was driven by declining football participation in Rochester and low numbers in the New Brighton's girls basketball program. Community members and former coaches expressed mixed reaction, with many in Rochester supporting the decision to be tabled. So here's how the vote went. The Rochester board voted 6-1 in favor of tabling to gather more information and receive input, while the New Brighton board voted unanimously 9-0 to move forward. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. So, hey, it comes down to numbers. You know a little bit about that because you were superintendent when you brought that blueprint together that was Center High School in Monaca, now Central Valley. So, as a citizen and former educator and still involved in the process, give me your thoughts on what you witnessed and what you think is the real reason why they're considering this co-op. Go ahead and good evening.
Thank you, Rob, for having me on. Hopefully you can hear me while I'm en route. But I can tell you that, to the credit of the leadership in both those districts, New Brighton and Rochester, the school board and administration, they have recognized the fact that the numbers are dwindling. And, it's very obvious. I mean, all you got to do is follow the numbers, and you'll see that the trend isn't a good trend relative to enrollment and relative to participation in extracurricular activities, and even with the number of courses and things that schools can offer. So to their credit, what I witnessed is some responsible civic leadership in both communities. Several months ago, they had some community meetings to talk about sharing a superintendent, which in my opinion is a fantastic idea for that to happen. I know both superintendents, Dr. Garino and Dr. Bovalina, and they're both fine leaders, and their plan to have one take over both districts, I think, is very sound. Again, showing foresight on the part of the school boards. As you can see, there's a common theme here when it comes to what's happening with schools and what their futures look like. You need to have good, responsible leadership. So they showed it there. What happened last night, basically, is both schools were looking to come together, as I understand it. Now, I'm not a part of those conversations. I mean, I showed up at the meeting as a citizen in Rochester, as a person of interest relative to the football program, obviously because, my brother Eugene and my name attached to that program for 40 years. And, what happened the other night is another, I think, responsible step by both districts, and that is, what are some things we can do together, cooperatively, to get the students to start coming together, the staff to start coming together. What can we do on the sports front? And they came up with a plan. Now, obviously, there were some things that happened in the meetings last night where Rochester tabled their decision and New Brighton went ahead with theirs. And you'd have to talk to them about all those details. But I can tell you this. Everybody that was there that spoke in Rochester recognized that the numbers aren't good. And but obviously frustrated, as you would expect. The fear of losing a program that's a storied program and what have you. And I will be honest, because I was honest with the crowd last night when I spoke. You can't run a football team with 14 players. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, anybody with any kind of common sense knows you can't run a football team with 14 players. And, so looking for ways to save football for the kids is the right way to go. So they looked at a co-op, and I believe, and I don't know this for sure, Rob,
Okay.
but I believe both boards and administrators found out just a few weeks ago that if they do a co-op, in football in particular, it would bump the football program to AAA. And I think that was a red flag, and I think it's a very, very reasonable and strong red flag about, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if we want to do this because, Duke Brighton's football team last year, they were double A. They were competitive. They had, I believe, an exciting season. Coach Maguga got the community excited again about football. And what are you going to do? Move up to AAA and have a hard time competing. So I think there was some pause on both sides because of that. And, you mentioned, the girls' basketball program at New Brighton and the fact that they're having problems with numbers. And the other part two reason why I went to the meeting last night was not only to tell Rochester residents that if you believe in the tradition of the football program, you saw that the board put football on hold. So you have a year, a reprieve, to beat the bushes and see about getting kids out for football. And if you can find the numbers, then great, have the program. If you can't, it's a tough pill to swallow. So I was there to kind of give them a little bit of toast of reality, coming from my perspective as a football coach. On the girls' basketball side, I'm sorry, Ron, go ahead. I talk too much.
No, I appreciate it because you're doing a great job. Let me just jump in here real quick. A couple of quick things come to mind. When the whole Center High School Monaca merger was being proposed, listen, that too was a very tough story for people to handle because they had such rich tradition. But why did it end up so seamless that now it never seems like there ever was a separate Monaca or Center High School? It's a match made in heaven, literally. I mean, and I live in Monaca. Why did that work, do you think? Why did that work?
Well, I have to tell you that, we had, I think, a recognition and an awareness that the option to merge was something that couldn't be ignored. And even though we heard comments from both communities, for example, in Monaca, once an Indian, always an Indian. From Center, once a Trojan, always a Trojan, or a Trojan for life. And the comment that we would make back to them was, yes, and you still are an Indian and you still are a Trojan because that's where you graduated from. But moving forward, obviously, your children will be warriors. So you don't lose that tradition and you don't lose those memories. But the key was there was so much positive that came from all the other things that the kids were going to gain from this. Not just from a financial standpoint, because that's only part of the reason, Rob, for whether you're going to do a co-op or whether you're going to do a consolidation of two high schools or whether you're going to merge a whole district. It's not just about the money. That's just half the story. The other half of the story is what's in it for the kids. What opportunities are they gaining? What opportunities are they losing? And when we talked about all that in Center and Monaca at the time we were doing our feasibility study, it became very obvious the opportunities that were going to be available to the students in both communities, as well as the money savings by coming together. And to be honest with you, we had a community. It wasn't accepted wholeheartedly by everybody in the community, but I believe the key was the leaders were diligent in getting the information that they needed to make an informed decision. And I've always said it from the beginning, Rob, that if districts would take the time to look at the numbers, it will make their decisions much easier.
Right.
Will they be less easier from an emotional standpoint? No. No, that's not the case. But sometimes you got to make tough decisions, for the best interest of the whole. That kind of doesn't tug at the heart, so to speak, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Last thing for Dan Matsuk, a concerned citizen at that school board meeting last night, talking about the possibility of a co-op between New Brighton and Rochester. Bottom line is the numbers just aren't there as far as the future. Something has to be done, and I'm sure they will figure it out. smarter minds than me, but I just have to say one other thing. You and I both love athletics. I mean, that's how you and I first came to know each other. But this is about more than just the tools for the athletes and what they need on the field, whatever that sport is. It's about the students in the classroom and giving them the best opportunity. I mentioned Butch Santacola earlier tonight, my dear friend who's no longer with us. And one thing Butch told me many years ago while representing the PSEA, kids deserve to have the same tools of education no matter where they're from or what the enrollment numbers are. And I think in the long run, this will give these two schools more tools and more opportunities to educate their students. Your thoughts on that, then we'll say goodnight.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I want to add to it, because when it comes to the responsibility of educating kids, it's about educating the whole child. So not only is it about opportunity in classrooms with electives, it's about the clubs that they offer. It's about the extracurricular activities that they offer. It's about the school play. It's about the musical. It's about the marching band.
Right.
It's about all those things that sometimes if you don't have the numbers, you don't get the full experience. You know, so you got to bring the kids together so you can provide it together. So when I say about curriculum and opportunity for kids, it's not just about sports. It's not just about the courses. It's about everything else that kids are interested in. I just wanted to add that to it, if you didn't mind.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. So, big picture, crystal ball, are you at least happy that they're talking from a citizen's point of view and from someone who loves public education? And we'll definitely say goodnight on that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. The first step is have a conversation. You don't have to make a commitment. By the way, I'm driving through a tunnel. I hope I don't lose you.
No, you're good. You're good.
But, the first step, have a conversation. You don't have to agree to anything. As a matter of fact, that's how the merger kind of moved forward with Central Valley. We agreed to get information, and when we got that information, they made a decision to have more discussion or not to have more discussion. At that time, they agreed to have more discussion and get more information. That's the first step. Get out there and talk about it, okay? In public, as a group, as a board, not at the water cooler, okay, but as a group as responsible leaders.
Sounds good. Hey, Dan, thank you for your time, and I'm here if anybody needs any help, just reach out, okay?
All right, thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
All right, this guy, I'm going to tell you something. Smart man, doing a lot of stuff, still involved in education, was a heck of an athlete and a fantastic football coach, as was his brother. And you heard what he said. Him and his brother, 40 years combined coaching at Rochester, and all they've ever done during the Matt Zook era, either Dan or Gene, was win. And they've seen these numbers dwindle. So here's the question on the other side, and you can represent any school. That's fine. Where have all these students gone in some of these schools, these districts that were somewhat larger and powerful at one time? What has happened? Can somebody explain to me? Where did they go? 866-391-1020. Back to take some calls on the other side. It's your Pratt Pack on a Wednesday night at KDKA.